Well, just with that, another Detroit Lions season has come to a close. What can I say? I mean, it was a roller coaster of a season for sure. I could say that for the least. I mean, they started 1-6. They had several close losses to a lot of what would end up being playoff teams, as well as trading away one of their top receivers to a division rival early in the season, and who would end up assisting them in the playoff push, the Vikings. And things didn't look good, to say the least. And then they turn around and they go 8-2 to finish the season, get their first winning record since 2017 to finish the season. 9-8 finish the season, and until approximately about 7:15 Eastern time Sunday, they were in the playoff hunt, and which they outlasted so many other teams that were ahead of them when they were 1-6, and then they ended up getting eliminated anyways. But it's disappointing to not make the playoffs for sure. But there's definitely a lot of positives to look on from this season. I mean, you start 1-6, you trade away one of your best players, all these close losses. You think you're just gonna have to call it a season, and they didn't call it a season. They went through. They did everything they could. They pushed, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, obviously, a lot of the big reasons that they were 1-6 in the first place was because of their defense. Their defense was one of the worst in the league. It was one of the worst ever for a little while. But they did perceive back and push through some things and got better as the season went along. They were forcing fumbles. They got lots of interceptions, and especially in that first Green Bay game back in November, they really showed their stuff. And they had a few other good moments as well. Led by, Aiden Hutchinson obviously was the big guy there. He was a beast. I mean, his Lions pick was amazing, and he did great things there. He's a beast. That's all I can say. I mean, he is incredible. Great pick for the Lions. Amazing job. And he's going to be a beast for years to come. But he didn't do it himself. I mean, he had 9 sacks, 3 interceptions, which was insane. But I mean, he also had some help. He had Alex Anzalone was doing a amazing job. James Houston, his name is Houston guy. He did amazing. There's a lot of other guys that started to show up as the season went on, and that defensive line really became a force to be reckoned with, especially in a lot of big games. They really pursued and went through. It was the secondary, though, which had a lot of problems. They were missing one of their best players in Tracy Walker all season due to injury. I don't know if he's going to come back next season. Hopefully he does. But it does not look. It doesn't. It looks a little likely that he might return at some point next season. But that's not confirmed. But I mean, there's a few other guys that stepped up, especially tonight. Well, I guess the time I'm recording this tonight against Green Bay. But a lot of other players really did a good job stepping up to the plate and doing really well there. So, they weren't great though, especially with Jeff Okudah. He's becoming more of a bust every week. He gets burned by every single play, even though he did have a pick 6 this year, and so that's pretty good. But overall, not a great season for him. But some other guys stepped up. We'll talk more about the defense a little bit later, but I think that was a point of emphasis that they need to work on in the offseason. But the offense, on the other hand, was where it was all at this season. They had one of the best offenses in the league, and by far one of the best offenses that I've seen out of the Lions in forever. Goff actually played like he did with the second coming of the greatest show on turf thing. He was playing lights out all season, 9 straight games with no turnovers. He played him especially great at home. His road stats were not as great because he's an LA boy. He doesn't play great in the cold NFC weather, but what are you going to do about that? But he did back off some good wins, especially against the Jets and the Green Bay, and then the last week of the season, and also against Chicago and a few others. So, it wasn't all bad in that regard. But he had a lot of help, too. I mean, he played really well this season in his second year at the Lions, but he also had a lot of help. He had DJ Chark and Khalif Raymond and what's the other guy? Well, of course, a few others guys that did an amazing job. Even though they did trade away Hockenson early in the season, their tight ends were not bad. His replacements were not bad. They weren't needed all that often, so maybe that they got a little bit of a boost in that regard. But I mean, even so, I mean, they did okay. I mean, they had some great plays for them against the Jets and a few other plays, and they did what they needed to do. And that helps when they have a lot of people to go to. You don't need to always rely on one tight end to do everything. Stepped up, and of course, their big receiver that we were looking forward to seeing this year was Jameson Williams. He didn't come in until week 12, I think it was, or no, week 13. It was after Thanksgiving. He didn't come until after Thanksgiving because he had an ACL tear in the national championship game. Set him out for a long, long time, but he finally came back and scored in his first game against the Jaguars. He didn't see a lot of action this season, all things considered. He had some big plays that they tried to set him up for. Most of them just didn't work out. He had a few other kind of catches, but overall, it was showing this season that they're still trying to incorporate him around the team and also trying to work him back into game mode because of his injury. So I think next year he's definitely going to be a big beast. We saw some good flashes of him, though, and there's lots of promise in his regard. I think we're going to see a lot more of him next season as well. I think he's going to be an absolute beast wide receiver to go along with all the other amazing wide receivers. Forgot to mention, obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown, that he was one of the big leaders on the team. Amazing receiver. There's a great receiving core around. There's like 4 really good wide receivers for the team. They had some tight end help, and then of course Jameson Williams jumping in as well. So good all around on that regard. But obviously, wide receivers was not all that at the offense. I could not forget about the running backs. The running backs were amazing too. DeAndre Swift, even though he did get injured and was injured for a good portion of the season, he showed flashes of good talent as he did in his first couple of seasons, I should say. And he had help with Jamal Williams, and that helps. When you have somebody back up, they were a great two-headed machine. Williams breaking the single-season touchdown record for breaking it from Barry Sanders, franchise record for most touchdowns in the season, rushing touchdowns in the season, 17. Did amazing there, and DeAndre Swift was a good backup to him as well, and they were all did amazing, great things. Like I said, I mean, this very well-rounded attack on offense was one of the best I've seen out of the Lions in a long time, if forever. I don't think they've ever had both a good running game and a good receiving core. And how could I forget? For the first time in forever, they have a good offensive line led by Penei Sewell. But he wasn't the only guy. The offensive line was a unit to talk about, and that's really, to have good running backs, you need to have guys who are athletic like Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. But you also got to have an offensive line to help them out, and that's why the offense, and that's also why Goff can throw the ball better because he has much better protection and that kind of thing. So all really good offensive attack all around. I think they have a very good offensive balance. The core is young too, and I think they work really well together. And that's really also because they have good. I mean, the reason why the team is brought together as it is and has so much loyalty and works so well together is because of the coaching. I mean, ownership is still kind of shitty, and the Fords are still pretty shitty. We all know that. But, I mean, Dan Campbell, dude, he deserves Coach of the Year. I don't care what anybody else thinks. He definitely deserves Coach of the Year. His bold play calls, get in the Green Bay game and all these fake punts and going for it on 4th down and getting it and trying all these weird plays, faking punts. You don't see anybody else doing that. You fool the Sunday Night Football announcers, you're doing something good. And he's our guy. I think he's what Detroit has needed for a long, long time, and I think he's going to be a real big staple for the coaching staff. But obviously, he's not the only one calling plays on the team. Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, he didn't have a great season. Had his ups and downs, but when it goes around, comes around, he had, good stuff going around. I think, he definitely can help improve. I think he's a guy with passion, and he can definitely help and improve. And obviously a lot of the credit goes to Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator. He's the one that helped draw up a lot of these big plays, and man, he deserves a lot of credit too. He deserves a big pay raise. So the coaching staff was a big part of it. So that's a lot of good things to look forward to. Obviously, their first winning season since 2017 is something to definitely look forward to. A young, returning core that's only going to get better with an improved Jameson Williams, with Tracy Walker possibly coming back, and players having a lot more experience. I think will definitely help, especially with this early season trouble that they faced this year. Because even with that, you got a lot of what ifs. What if they got at least just one stop against either Philadelphia or Seattle? What if they didn't have blown coverage at Minnesota in week 3? What if they scored just once against Miami? What if the announcers jinxed and fucked them over on Thanksgiving? There's a lot of that, but I gotta have a positive outlook on stuff. Even as a Lions fan, I gotta have a positive outlook and look towards next season. And really, what they gotta do is stiffen up the defense. If they can stiffen up the defense, Tracy Walker coming back will definitely help that. I'm just speculating if he's coming back. I don't know if that's actually gonna happen, but I hope it does. But him coming back, and you know what, they need to use draft picks. They're gonna get, that Lions trade. That trade with the Rams is gonna get them the 6th overall pick in the draft. They are going to be behind a lot of teams with young QBs, though, including Chicago and Arizona, and that's it. But they're also going to be behind Indianapolis, Seattle, who's taking Denver's pick, and the Texans. So it's very possible that the guy I want the Lions to get, Will Anderson, will already have been taken. He probably is going to go first overall to the Bears. But he could also easily go to Arizona. He could easily, as well as maybe even go to Houston or Indianapolis or Seattle too. Doesn't know what we're going to see there. So, but obviously there's more than just Will Anderson in the draft for defensive guys. I think there's a lot of good defensive players that they could use. Obviously in the cornerback, linebacker position to help cover the secondary, that's exactly what they need. I think on defensive line they're going to be okay, especially with more experience and more guys, getting more experience and getting better as the season progressed this year. I think they're going to carry that over into next season. It's the secondary that needs help, and Tracy Walker, like I said, coming back is going to help, but I think they need more than that. And so I think if they stiffen that up, they could be an easy force to reckon with next season. That's another Lions season in the books. Now I get to watch all the teams royally fuck each other over on national TV until one remains to hoist the Lombardi Trophy a little over a month from now. I will have my NFL playoff predictions video coming out in a couple of days, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to this next year. There's a lot to look forward to this season until ref fuckery happened. And also, a rocky start didn't help. But, you gotta have the growing pains. And I think this is a good time for Detroit Lions fans. Maybe not for Detroit Pistons fans. Maybe for Detroit Lions fans. We'll see about that. But time to go watch the playoffs and do other stuff. I'm wearing the Lions jersey. It'll be back next season. Don't you guys worry. I always have hope. Till the refs take it away from me.